Heidi!
Hey, girl. How are you?
Oh my gosh, so busy studying. All of my free time.
You're a D3.
What?
Which level are you in?
Level 3.
That's right. Yep. Where it begins.
Yep. 3 more weeks.
He'll be fine.
I hope so.
How are the kiddos?
Crazy. My youngest stopped sleeping through the night for like 2 months. He just finally started sleeping again. So I'm like, please stay this way until after my test at least. What about yours?
He's good. He's good. We're just getting sorted up in Virginia. So, Michael, I'm talking to my friends on Wine Club. He's in the bathtub. No, they're online, bud. Yeah. Because they're on your phone call.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Perfect, perfect. Sorry for the little delayed start. Took me some time to get organized here. But all right, well, let's get started. It's 8:35. What's up, everyone? Welcome to June 6-Foot Wine Club. We are tasting this guy today. It's a cute little label with the two donkeys in the front. A Kolsch style bottle. Basically comes with its own champagne stopper or sparkling stopper, so you will have one, which is pretty sweet. So this is a non-vintage Domaine de deuh-Zahn Limo Rosé Petillant is what we're tasting today. A lot of French words in there, but we'll talk about it in a second. Just a few announcements before we get into it. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, my name is Woong. It's spelled that way, but it's pronounced like Woong. It's like moon without the M, spoon without the SP, soon without the S. Or authentic way of pronouncing it in Korean is Woong with a G at the end, but that silent W throws everybody off, so don't feel bad about it. But Woong or Woong, I respond to both. So if whatever's easier for you, respond to both. Here at 6-Foot Wine Club, we just have two ground rules. One is if you have any questions, so the first hour is kind of like the teaching hour. We go over the wine, the producer profile. We can get pretty technical and geeky in the first hour. But after that, it kind of turns into this virtual wine bar, essentially. Whereas the after hour, where people can hang out, can drink the wine, and talk about whatever that is related to wine or not. Yeah, it's just kind of, we get to hang out until people want to go home, and you can click off and go home, or you're already home. But in order to keep us moving, make sure that that first hour, we keep ourselves on time. If you have any questions, if you could kind of put them in the chat box, or if you can hold on to it until the Q&A is prompted, that would be great. Just as a warning, today will probably go a little bit longer. Usually the first of each month is usually a little bit longer one, just because we go through the grid and I have to kind of explain what it means, how we taste through it. But outside of that, we try to keep the first hour really within the hour, just so that people can, have to be here all night. The second part is at any point, if we're all adults, we're consuming alcoholic beverage, and we get a little hopped up and may say something that you may find offensive, or you may say something that may offend somebody else. When those things happen, I mean, it's natural. I want you to all show up as 100% authentically yourself. When those things are brought to my attention, we're gonna talk about that as a group. Know that it's all coming from a place of love and respect, in the interest of keeping this space feeling safe and fun for everybody. When those things are brought to my attention, we're going to talk about that as a group. But besides that, again, I'm not really interested in censoring your speech or trying to scold you for things you've said. But just know that we're, all is in the interest of keeping the space feeling safe and fun. While we're on that topic, I do have to say, I do want to kind of emphasize something about this month. So this month's theme is what I'm calling non-binary bots. June is a Pride Month. So my intent this month is to kind of celebrate all things that are fluid, that blur the kind of categorical lines, whether it be wine categories or gender identity, in the hopes that maybe it will kind of get us to think more critically about these kind of limitations of these rigid social constructs that we have, whether it be wines, again, or gender. Again, my intent is to celebrate everyone who identifies as non-binary, gender fluid, gender queer, while drinking some of these wines that really paint outside the lines this month. But having said all that, it has kind of come to my attention, or I've come to realize that maybe calling it a non-binary box may possibly offend some people, or at least may find it annoying if you are somebody who do identify with one of those gender identities I mentioned. So if that is the case, I apologize. I should have thought about this earlier, but if that is the case, again, I do apologize. And if at any point during this month, If anything that I say, you find an issue with any of the topic that I may bring up, or the way I present the information seems, not quite right, or quite frankly, even ignorant, I want you to feel comfortable calling me out and calling me in. That rule about, not offending, if there's something offensive or something that gets on people's nerves or were said, we're going to talk about it. That does not exclude me. That includes me. So if at any point, if I say something that you find is somebody who identifies a different gender identity offensive or annoying, I want you to tell me. If saying that publicly feels a little uncomfortable, then I want you to, feel free to shoot me an email, or, you all have my phone number. It's in my email signature, and let me know. I'm hoping that this is a kind of an opportunity for us to talk about some of these topics that are, potentially considered taboo, maybe uncomfortable to kind of talk about, or maybe feel completely uneducated to talk about. And, this month maybe being a good opportunity for us to learn as a group together. So again, this is all, I hope, and I know that we're all going to approach each other with love and respect, as we always do on this wine club. But just given the type of the topic that I wanted to kind of intentionally bring up this month, it may seem a little insensitive as somebody who does not identify as one of those gender identities. So at any point, if it doesn't come to your attention, I want you to point that out to me. So don't worry, I will not take it personally. Again, this is all in the interest of learning, and then at least in the worst case, finding some blind spots. But I do think that this month may be a good learning opportunity for all of us. So just wanted to put that out there, but that's it. I think you all get it. All right, so Case Club, a few other announcements. Case Club goes live tomorrow for all the wines that we tasted from Emilia Romagna last month. So that will all be going out tomorrow. So keep your eye out for the email if you're interested. And that's all I got. Last but not least, 6 Foot Wine Club is committed to donating 1% of its gross revenue to an organization whose mission statement aligns with its values. And this month, especially in celebration of the Pride Month, I've chosen Gender Sexualities Alliance Network. If you want to learn more about what they do incredible work around building, it's like a youth development program with kind of individual satellite networks that are built all around different campuses and different schools, getting the students and young people to kind of take leadership in LGBTQ issues. So they do some incredible work. So yeah, if you want to learn more about what they do, check out their website. If you want to donate alongside 6 Foot Wine Club, there's a donation link right there as well. Any questions, any comments, any concerns before we move on to the wine itself? Cool. All right, then, if you are just joining us now, we're tasting this guy. It's a cute little label. I fucking love this label. Domaine de deuh-Zahn, Limo de Rosé Petillant. I know I'm butchering that pronunciation, but yeah. But yeah, that's what we're drinking. All right, let's start with the map. Oh, by the way, just the rest of the month, how the wines are structured. So today is not really outside the box. It's more of a very kind of a traditional rosé, how rosés are made, and we're going to talk about what rosé is and what are some production methods for rosé. So today's kind of serving as kind of the base point, jump off point for the rest. But starting from the 2nd week to the 4th week, the wines are going to be really just kind of out there. They're all kind of wines that are really difficult to kind of neatly fit into a box, and that is all intentional. And that's the whole point of this month. But yeah, for today at least, the wine we're going to talk about is more fitting for what typically is a rosé, and then we'll talk about what that means when we get there. And we'll get to the production method. All right, so let's start with the map. Where is a share screen? There you go. All right. Okay, here you go. It's a map of France, right? You all should be pretty familiar with this map by now. You've probably seen it probably 100 times at this point. But yeah, here we are. And this wine comes from where right here in Languedoc-Roussillon area. We've dedicated a month to this area before. So it should be people, if you've joined before, you should be familiar, but it's kind of in this southwest corner of France, butting up against Spain. The Pyrenees is essentially what divides Spain. The mountain range of Pyrenees is what divides France and Spain. So it kind of butts up against this mountains as well as this kind of a Mediterranean coast. Really, really interesting area in terms of wine. It's a very unique kind of a terroir. But it's also the area for the longest time that has been kind of linked with more of a bulk wine rather than quality wine. It's just, I mean, it still is. There's a ton in terms of amount of wine that's produced at Languedoc. I think maybe number one, if not number two, in all of France. So there's a ton of wine being made here, but a lot of it is kind of this bulk, mass quantity wine, not really considered a quality wine region. But if you look more closely, this is kind of how Languedoc-Roussillon is divided. But where in Languedoc, this producer comes from Corbière, or her properties is basically right on the coast, but it's in the sub-region of Corbière. You might have heard of Corbière. There's a lot of wines that come from here. A lot of red wines particularly come from Corbière. But yeah, a lot of really good, like a table red wine. A lot of Syrah or Grenache-based wines come from here. But that's kind of where we are right here. So this is kind of the last sub-region of Languedoc before it moves into Roussillon. But yeah, this is kind of what we are talking about. Like I mentioned, area more known for their bulk wine than quality wine. But because of that, is actually also the area that's really interesting. It's always been kind of overlooked. People have kind of given up or don't think of it as any area that's worthy of kind of really paying attention to. But it is a really like rugged place. If you've ever been there, it is just wild. Wild is like the only adjective to really describe the landscape there. It's just rugged and wild. It just kept really just kind of natural and wild there. A beautiful landscape, but it's littered with these vineyards that are full of old vines that have existed there since the Roman times. But because the viticulture has moved towards more of that mass bulk kind of a thing, and people have always looked at it as kind of a underdog area, the land here is actually quite affordable. Well, more affordable than any other major wine growing areas in France. So it's no doubt, no surprise that a lot of the young natural winemakers have settled here and set up shop here, just because it's the only real place that can go and actually buy some land and then grow their own vines and basically straight-on fruit. But because of that kind of proximity to Mediterranean, particularly this producer, it gets this both ample sun exposure to really help ripen the grapes. It is also quite arid, really dry area, so little rainfall. There's a steady supply of wind that comes down from the inland that keeps it really dry, so which makes it perfect for chemical-free organic farming. And also there's that moderating influence from the Mediterranean Sea that helps it keep the freshness. So it you end up getting these kind of very unique terroir. Also, the soil type is a mixture of clay and limestone, which is the kind of combination you find in places like Burgundy, which is really ideal. So you end up getting these wines that can be really powerful, can have a lot of tannin, can have a lot of extract, can have a lot of alcohol even, but it never lacks freshness because of that moderating influence and the wind that blows down. And there's also the elevation change that can happen in here as well. It gets quite cold here at nighttime as well. So yeah, really, really cool place for wine. Do not sleep on it. If you've never been to Languedoc or never really explore Languedoc or Roussillon wines, I highly recommend get there. And because the land is cheaper, the wines tend to be cheaper as well. So really good, affordable, really good value wines for the quality that you're getting. Let's talk about who makes this wine real quick. So Domaine, the deuh-Zahn is literally translates to the domain or the winery of two donkeys. And as you can see, and I understand there are three donkeys. She started out with two donkeys, but now there are three donkeys. Her name is Magali Terrier, which is the lady right here. She owns and farms 22 hectares organically and biodynamically. So some vineyards are biodynamic, some vineyards are organically farmed. They're both certified. So she's organic vineyards are EcoCert certified. The biodynamic ones are Demeter certified. She grows old vine Carignan, Grenache, Mourvedre, Syrah, Grenache Gris for the white wines. So very kind of a traditional classic varieties of this region. She has kind of foregone any of the international varieties that have really taken roots here, especially for bulk wines, and really decided to focus her energy on the kind of indigenous varieties of this region. She's originally from Beaujolais, and even though she makes powerful kind of a Corbière as well as a Languedoc wines, there's always a little bit touch of that like Beaujolais touch in her wines, if you ask me. But yeah, she's originally from Beaujolais, but she worked in Beaujolais as well as in other parts of France, including Jura and Mâcon in Burgundy. And then in year 2000, so about 24 years ago, she landed here in Languedoc and fell in love with the area. By the way, I mentioned the name deuh-Zahn means two donkeys. After the animals, they actually live amongst the vines. They help prune and naturally kind of fertilize the field. All the pre-pruning they do in the spring and the early summer. Basically, they let the donkeys go around and kind of eat some of the vines and then fertilize the field. And she believes that it helps tremendously with the quality of the grapes that she grows. But now there are three of them. So I can't tell you which one is which, but their name is Rikita, Pinocchio, and the mom of the two is Lolita. So these are the three donkeys that live on there. And then also two donkeys on the label is named after these animals that she grows or she raises. These are some of the other pictures that we found. This is actually the Carignan wild goblets, some Carignan old vines. These are up to some of these vines are up to 75 years old. That's what we have today. So you may think this is some like really easy to drink. I mean, it is. It's very refreshing, easy to drink, approachable penat, but it comes from 75-year-old vines. So we're talking about very old vines that have been here for a long time. Here's another picture of their vineyards. Look at just how wild it is. But yeah, that's kind of what it looks like. This in case you haven't looked at the back label, this is imported by Jenny and Francois. Jenny Lefcourt. We've featured her on the Wine Club as a guest speaker a couple of years back. This is Jenny. She's one of the OG kind of natural wine importers in this country. And then here's Magali. She founded the Domaine at the same time that Jenny actually started Jenny and Francois. So she, in fact, this winery, Magali's wines, were one of the very first ones that Jenny ever brought into the States. So we're talking about kind of true long-term partnership between two women, two underdogs at the time. And then now they're just kind of taking over the US market. Here's another picture of her hugging her donkeys. But yeah, so that's kind of what we're talking about. Like I mentioned, this vineyard, she has up to 75-year-old vines, all in healthy conditions. So it's kind of a love at first sight, but really kind of great discovery for Magali. And she farms 22 hectares. So what is this wine? Let's talk about that for a second. It's a 7-year-old Carignan grown on clay and limestone, all hand harvested, destemmed, then direct pressed into a tank. We're going to talk about that in a second, what that direct press means. But yeah, this just literally means it takes the fruit, so destem it, take the stems out of the fruit or take the berries off the stems, and then you press it just until you get this kind of a color out of the skins, and then you just put it straight into a tank. It's called direct pressing. Ferments for 2 to 3 weeks before the fermentation is finished. The wine is bottled in this exact same bottle that we're drinking today. And then the wine is not disgorged, and then 0 sulfur is added. And so we're talking about very much of, I mean, if you were to see the ingredient label in the back, nutrition label in the back, all we will say is literally grapes. Because it is also undisgorged, I'm actually quite surprised that this hasn't really like bubbled up and almost exploded. Maybe she bottles it when there's a pretty low amount of sugar left, but it also means it will throw up quite a bit of sediment. I mean, my bottle is sediment on the bottom. I had this on the side, so when I tilted back up, it kind of settled into it. I don't mind the sediment. I actually like mixing it into my wine, but if you're one of those people who are afraid of cloudy wines, I recommend that you just stand this up for 24 hours. Then all the sediment will go to the bottom, and then you can clear off the top. When you get to the bottom, you can just discard it. So let's talk about that direct press for a second. So let's talk about rosé essentially, because that's what this is. So what is a rosé? In a very traditional sense, rosé is this kind of blush, lighter colored red wine that is made from black grapes. So, what we're really talking about is really the presence of color more than anything else when we're talking about traditional rosé. And, like I mentioned, starting from next week and into the last week of this month, we're going to really try to tweak that and trying to see if that definition really makes sense. Is it really the appearance that makes a rosé? What is a rosé? But for the purpose of today's discussion, we're talking about a very traditional sense of rosé. And there are kind of 3 different ways to make rosé. So one is direct press, which is what you have today. So just like how this wine was made, you bring in the grape bunches into the winery, you destem it. You don't have to destem it, but this producer, Magali, chooses to destem it. The reason why you destem it is really just to hold on to the fruit purity of it. It gives you an insight on what she was trying to do with this wine. But then you press it, and then once you get to the, at the very beginning, when the berry just pops and starts to give out the juice, the juice is actually quite clear. But as you press more and more, and those skins get pressed, a lot of this color pigmentation starts to come out. So you press it all the way up until that happens, or whatever the color that the winemaker chooses is right. And then they stop, and then they ferment that juice, and that's direct press juice. And that's essentially what we have here. You let it go through this secondary fermentation, or let it have the fermentation, finish the fermentation inside the bottle. It just became a penne. But if you're to ferment this out completely dry, this will just be a direct press rosé. Usually the Provence, Languedoc, this area is known for their direct press. That's usually what we do. So most likely if you come across Provençal rosé, that is a direct press rosé. And then there's maceration method. Actually, before we get to maceration, I want to talk about saignée. So which is kind of the complete opposite way. So it results in a much darker, more robust wine. You see a lot of these in pretty much any areas where there's a lot of big red wine production. Essentially what happens is a portion. So after you press the juice, you crush it, right? It's sitting on the skins and it's fermented to make red wine. But at the very beginning stage of the fermentation, they'll bleed off a portion of that juice so that the remaining juice to skin ratio is larger. So there are more skins per juice, amount of juice, volume of juice that's left in there. Just to kind of concentrate the juice, concentrate the color, the tannin, all the polyphenolic things that come out, all the things from the skins, they just want to concentrate it more. So they bleed out some of the juice at the very beginning phase of fermentation. And then essentially you ferment that, and then you have rosé. So a lot of people who, particularly quality rosé producers from Provence area, will talk a lot of shit on like the saignée producers. They're essentially saying saignée is an opportunistic rosé. It's not really like they're not making rosé. They're essentially making red wine, and it's just a byproduct of making red wine. And it's kind of true, but there are some beautifully made saignée rosés out there. And a lot of times you'll see saignée rosés in Spain, just because Spain makes a lot of really robust, big, powerful reds. You'll see some saignée rosés in Napa, right? So basically, anywhere there's a big red wine production, you're going to see some Sanye. You see some in Tuscany as well. So yeah. However, the biggest misconception people have is that the darker the rosé color is, somehow Americans think that it's sweeter. There's more fruit, but that's not necessarily true. Everything gets fermented out kind of dry. So it all depends on how much kind of extract, power, that kind of skin contact you want. But actually amount of sugar that's left in the wine it has nothing to do with the color. So the final third method is a maceration method. And this is kind of like in between direct press and saignée. So it's essentially making just like a red wine. So you take the black grapes, put it on the skins. It all depends on how long you keep it on the skin. So you can direct press, and after that, you keep it on the skins for, I don't know, day, 2, sometimes hours, sometimes up to a week, even longer. And then you separate out the skins and the juice, and you ferment the juice. And then that's how you get rosé. So, I mean, even just looking at like a maceration particularly, I mean, like, at what point does it become a red wine, or like a light red wine? And at what point does it become darker rosé, right? Like it's all depends on kind of so there's no industry-wide distinction. It'd be like if you macerate it for longer than 1 week, then it's technically a red wine. You know, anything less than that is a rosé. Nothing like that exists. So it all depends on the winemaker. It is a very subjective thing. But yeah, those three are kind of like anytime you see color, kind of just blush pink color in your wine, we're talking about wines that are made using these three methods: direct press, maceration, saignée. Saignée being the darkest, most robust, will have a lot more of that kind of red wine, red berry kind of a flavor. Direct press and maceration, again, depends on how long you macerate the skin for. They can be very similar. Macerated rosés can be a little bit darker. But oftentimes the flavor profile will be much lighter. So you get things like, I don't know, watermelon, like a light cherries, tart cherries, things like that, as opposed to saignée where you get like deeper raspberry and strawberry and things like that. So again, it's not necessarily that one is better than the other. It just all depends on where it comes from. If you want to try saignée rosé again, try Spanish Napa. Tavel, which is another region in France that makes a really dark rosé. That's a cool area to check out some of these methods. Direct press, even though some Tavels are actually macerated, so it's not completely saignée, but it just makes it much darker. And then you have direct press here today, and any Provence rosé you come across is going to be direct press. So you see that difference. Any questions about any of that before we get into the tasting it? I'm seeing that deuh-Zahn because X. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let go. There's no accepted distinction between a lighter red and a darker rosé. Exactly. It's like, you know, it depends on who you ask. Is that what some winemaker would say? This is a rosé. Some winemaker would say this is a red. But there's no like actual industry-wide distinction. No. All right, let's taste it. Also, this weather is so humid. I went for a walk before starting the tasting today, and like literally, I walked for like 5 blocks, and I was like already just dripping. So I'm very glad to be drinking this really refreshing, cold, bubbly rosé with you all. All right, let's start with an appearance. I'm gonna go through this because the first week of the month. I'm gonna go through how this breaks down. So this is the grid. So here at 6 Foot Wine Club, we taste the wine through the grid. This is WCT level 3 grid, systematic approach to tasting wine. Grid is just basically this systematic way that all the wine professionals were taught how to taste wine. And they're broken into 4 different sections. So appearance, how the wine looks; nose, how the wine smells; palate, how the wine tastes. We do taste for structure and flavor. We'll talk about that when we get there. And then conclusion is where you take all the information you've kind of gathered in the first 3 sections, put them all together, think about the wine, and call out at this level, call out the quality level, and then the potential for aging. There's another organization called Court of Master Sommeliers. They also have their own grid, very similar. Just a few little different things here and there, but you can download this for free. Just Google it, WCT or CMS, Court of Master Sommeliers grid. Just type it in Google and it'll pop up if you want to get a practice of doing this. But yeah, just a few words about the grid real quick. In the second page here, you see all this lexicon, all this vocabulary and words we're supposed to use to describe wine. Obviously, these are some of them. There are a lot more than these to kind of describe the wine. And also, if you look at the fruits that are described here, a lot of these are very, very kind of Eurocentric. This WSAT, Wine Spirit and Education Trust, is a British body. So people who wrote this grid are British people. So it's no surprise. But the thing about the wine tasting is a very subjective experience. And at the end of the day, if you grew up in some other place, so you have a different sets of aromas and flavors that you grew up with, whether it be you grew up in, in Brazil or near the equator somewhere, like Vietnam, Asia, or West Africa, or wherever it may be, where basically like the fruit like this is, you have other fruits besides this that you're more familiar with. If the wine reminds you of those things, you're not wrong. It's just that, these are the vocabularies that they've come up with. So in a way, it's very limiting, especially with a lot of the wines that we call that we taste on this wine club are natural wines. So the flavors tend to be much wilder. It goes much far beyond what's possible in the conventional wine world. So it's very limiting. There's a lot more than this. So if you sense something, you taste something, you smell something that is not on here, but that's what you get, call it out, because you know what? This is your wine that you're tasting. And if that's what it tastes like to you, that's what it tastes like. We'll go through what I'll break down this first primary, secondary, tertiary later when we get there, when we're smelling and tasting the wine. But for now, let's get started from the top. All right, so pour yourself like 2 to 3 ounces of wine. That's about half a glass. And start with the clarity. So tilt your wine at like 45 degrees. You're going to look through the deepest kind of core of the wine. I'm going to say this wine is hazy. This wine is definitely not clear. You can tell that this wine has not been filtered or fined. Intensity. I'm going to call this, I don't know, maybe pale, somewhere between pale and medium. Pink is kind of what I'm getting on this thing. Any other observation? Give it a little swirl. I see some bubbles coming up here. Definitely some flocculation is the word that the wine geeks like to throw out, but it basically means there's some of these kind of hazy, unfiltered kind of thing to it. So, quick words about legs or tears. You may be wondering why I'm not covering it. If you got the bottom of this bottle, you definitely have some deposits in this wine. This wine definitely has some deposit, some sediment. But right now I'm drinking the top portion of it, so mine is just hazy, but it doesn't have any sediments in it. Legs or tears is if you swirl the wine and let it just kind of sit there, you see these kind of lines that are dropping on the side, coming down. Those are called legs or tears. What it tells you is essentially viscosity of the wine. It's a function of alcohol and sugar. More sugar it has, more viscous it becomes, so it comes out slower, right? But oftentimes people will associate, or I've heard some people associate legs or tears with the quality of wine. They'll come in and they'll say things like, "Oh my God, look at these beautiful legs. This must be great wine. I'm so excited." Legs or tears don't tell you shit about the quality. It just tells you about viscosity. And also later on, when we get to palate, we actually confirm the alcohol and sweetness on the palate. So I'm not exactly sure why they want us to make note of legs or tears. I personally think it's stupid. I personally think it's redundant, but here they are. Also, I didn't say this, but the grid is really meant for blind tasting. This is meant to be used in an exam setting when we're tasting wines blind. meaning we don't know what wine is in our glass. We just walk into exam setting, there are glasses and they're filled with wines, and we're supposed to basically analyze its appearance, nose, and palate, and then come up with a conclusion about the wine. So it's very different from how we are tasting the wine now because we know what wine is in there. But nonetheless, this is a good practice to do in terms of kind of uniformizing, is that a word? Making it uniform, making our experiences uniform in terms of tasting wine, which is inherently a very subjective experience. All right, nose. So let's smell it. Give it a little swirl. Then put your nose in it. You can take one big kind of a long inhale, or take like a couple of short ones. I'm gonna say this one is clean. It's not squeaky clean. Like you can tell this is not like a lab clean. It's not made in this like a crazy, stainless tank, like, a medical grade cleaned facility. But for all intents and purposes, I'm going to say this one is clean. And earlier I said this wine has no sulfites on it. This is zero sulfite wine. It's a 0-0 wine, which meaning zero input in the field, zero input in the cellar, in the winery. The fact that it's this clean and stable is actually speaks volume about her impeccable farming and impeccable hygiene in the cellar. Intensity. So give it a swirl, and then you're gonna start moving the glass towards your nose, and notice when you start smelling the wine. Okay, smell it right around there. It's like just off the rim. So I'm gonna call this medium. So essentially, when your nose kind of touches the rim or just about to touch the rim, call that medium. Medium plus is a few inches off. Pronounces even further. Medium minus is when you take your nose in the glass and you still kind of struggle to get it, and light is really like there's nothing coming off the wine. But I get it like right there, which is literally just off the rim. So I'm going to call this medium. Medium intense aromas of, and this is when we go to this, the second page. So primary are all the kind of aromas and flavors you get from the actual grape, the fruit, and the fermentation, the primary fermentation. It's not that these things are added into the wine. It's just that when the fermentation happens, all these chemicals get released. They bind with different things, and and they just produce these kind of a same kind of a aromatic substances or chemical chains that would exist in these fruits. That's what makes them smell that way. And those things are created during fermentation, and that's how these kind of aroma characteristics pop out. So yeah, so primary, and then secondary is what you is describing what you do to the wine after the fermentation is done. So after the fermentation is done, you put it in oak barrels, new oak barrels particularly. Then you get things like this: vanilla, cloves, nutmeg, coconut, this kind of baking spices. MLF stands for malolactic fermentation. So if you leave the wine at a room temperature or ambient temperature, all the malic acid in the wine turns into lactic acid just naturally. Almost 100% of the red wines go through malolactic fermentation. White wines, it really depends on the winemaker's decision. Some wines are put through a full malolactic, some are put through partial, some are put through none at all. Really depends on what the winemaker is after. The malic acid, think of it as like a green apple acid, really sharp, really jagged kind of acid. Lactic acid, lactic, lactose, think like yogurt, sour cream, still tart, but like kind of different. To me, great Raja Par, which is a sommelier, now a winemaker of Sandy wines, but one of great influences of mine in the wine world. He has always said, think of the wine in terms of shape, particularly the acid. And to me, it's like when you think of malic acid, it's like this triangle, like jagged edges. And then lactic acid is like more elongated and round. Again, both tart, but it's just the shape is a little different. Yeast here, these autolysis or autolytic flavors, autolytic aromas. It's just a fancy way of saying when you leave the wines exposed to lees, lees are dead yeast cells. So essentially, these sediments that you see on the bottom of the bottle, those are lees. when you leave the wine exposed to lees for an extended amount of time, you get these really kind of savory complexity to the wine. So you get things like biscuit, bread, toast, pastry, brioche, cheese runs, things like that pop up. Champagne is a great example, or old like a Grand Reserva Cava. Those things are great example of figuring out or testing what autolytic flavors and aromas feel like to you. So go check them out. But yeah, so this is what that means. And then finally, tertiary is what happens to the wine after it's been aged, either in barrel or for a long time, or oftentimes in a bottle aging. So after a while, all this primary fresh fruit and flowers and things like that will start to kind of the character of the fruit will start to change. So it become more dried out. So dried apricot, marmalade, dried apple, dried banana, things like that. If it sees some oxidation, you will see some of these kind of nutty things come out. Madeira from Portugal is from the Portuguese island of Madeira. It's a great wine to get a sense of what oxidation tastes like. Or Oloroso sherry. And then like again, fig, prune, dry blackberries, all these things like that. And then some of these things come out with a really extended bottle aging with a white wine, petrol, kerosene. I know this sounds really weird, but Riesling is a great example of this. If you age Riesling for a long time, you start to see a lot of this petrol, kerosene, basically gas station smelling things coming out. Hay, honey, Shannon, a lot of Shannon throws off a lot of this as it ages. And with a red wine, Bordeaux, Burgundy, I mean, a lot of red wines, when you age it for a long time, you start to get these kind of non-fruit aromas like leather, forest floor, mushroom, tobacco, things like that. So it's one way to tell if the wine has been aged when you start basically getting all these tertiary aromas. All right, so let's smell it. So this one is clean, I said, and then we said medium intense aromas of. Let's talk about what we get. And don't overthink this. Just go from the top to bottom and see if you get it. If you get anything, call it out. If you don't, just skip it. All right, so let's start with the floral top. I don't think this wine is particularly a floral wine. Maybe you could convince me there's a little bit of blossom in here, maybe a little honeysuckle, but I don't think it's necessarily particularly a floral wine. Green fruit? No, no green fruit. Citrus? Yeah, I get some citrus here. I get a little grapefruit skin here. I get a little lemon. Yeah, maybe a little orange, but like to me, just like grapefruit, lemon is essentially like more predominant citrus fruit that I get. Stone fruit, you could convince me that maybe there's a touch of like peachy, apricot-y kind of a thing going on here. More peachy, more like a peach ring, like a more of like a confectionery, like not a fruit peach, but like a peach ring, like the candy peach kind of a thing. Tropical fruit, not much tropical here. And then red fruit. This is where I get a lot of these things. So I get some like red cherry, maybe some cranberry, maybe a little watermelon. So a lot of like a red fruit is what comes out. No black fruit for me here. This is really bright, like a tart red fruit. In terms of character of fruit, this tells you a lot about farming and like kind of what happened during the vintage, as well as treatment in the cellar. But basically, the hotter the vintage or the hotter the place the wine comes from, usually you start to get these kind of jammy, baked, stewed fruit and things like that, or longer. If they've hung the fruit, they left the fruit ripening on the vines too long, you tend to get some of these jammy, baked, stewed fruit things. Or when it gets really hot, you get some of these like raisin, fig, and all that stuff. But to me, this fruit quality is really fresh, really ripe, really fresh, maybe even just touch of an underripe, but definitely not overripe. There's nothing jammy here. This is a really bright, fresh kind of thing. Herbaceous, herbal. These things you start to see in some wines. Some is a varietal character for some, like a Sauvignon Blanc, Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc. All those things have naturally really high pyrazine. It's a type of a chemical that exists that gives off this kind of green bell pepper, really green kind of thing. Some of these other things can come from the vegetal part of the vine. So we're talking about stems, the seeds, right? Not necessarily the skin, the fruit itself. But when those things are not fully ripe and they get included in the wine, stem inclusion, you get some of these kind of grassy, tomato leafy, kind of asparagus, all this kind of stuff as well. But it's in this wine, I really don't get much herbaceous and herbal here. Yeah, to me, this is very much of this kind of really fresh fruit. Maybe there's a little bit of this, and this may be power of suggestion. We're all humans, we're all susceptible power of suggestion. But this area, Languedoc-Roussillon, they have this thing called garrigue, which is this wild shrubs of thyme, rosemary, lavender, that these things just kind of grow everywhere. And then the wines that come from this region, Languedoc-Roussillon as well as Rhone, they're really kind of known to have this garrigue character, which is this kind of wild thyme, lavender kind of a thing. And maybe because of that, because I know that, but like I get like a little touch of that kind of lavendery, little bit of that kind of herbal thing. But honestly, just a touch. It's not overwhelming. It's not over the top. It's really all we're talking about is this red fruit and citrus fruit is basically what was predominantly here. No spices, really fresh, really pure. I don't get a whole lot of minerality here, honestly, to tell the truth. I know this was grown on clay and limestone, but to me, not a whole lot of minerality, just a lot of really fresh, ripe fruit. Secondary aromas, nothing here. Obviously, no oak. This is a stainless steel, still straight into the bottle. No MLF sign. Also, I suck at smelling MLF. To me, this is really a textural thing. I go taste the wine. Some of you may be really a lot better at it than I am to spotting this, but I rarely ever get cream or butter out of wine, at least on the smell. Definitely no yeast. Yes, it is sitting on the lees right now, but it has not spent enough time for this to be really considered autolytic. This is NV, but sometimes they just don't say it, or they have a secret code usually on there to let you know what vintage it is, but they just keep it as NV so they don't have to worry about it, but I don't see it on here. But I'm willing to bet this is probably 2023 vintage. Is basically what we're tasting here. So we're talking about a year ago. Grapes that were harvested in the fall of last year that are just coming out now. No tertiary. This is way too young, way too fresh. There's nothing dried, nothing non-fruit. We're all very much in the primary world right now. All right, so that was the nose. And then in case you're wondering what this development is, so youthful is everything is kind of all primary, that's youthful. Developing is when you start to see secondary, and then some tertiary kind of coming in, start to come in, that's developing. Fully developed is when everything is kind of in complete balance. You get some tertiary, you get some secondary, you get some primary still, but freshness still left in the wine. It's kind of describing the peak of the wine's age, evolution. And then finally, tired past its best is when wine's been aged for too long, and then all that primary has kind of switched over to tertiary. There's no kind of fresh fruit left in the wine. So yeah, there is such a thing as aging the wine too long. Not all wines are meant to be aged for a long time or at all, as is the case today. But yeah, so you can definitely, when you get to those wines, you see all the wines, all the fruit that's left on there, like raisins and no freshness left. All right, palate. Let's taste it. So give it a swirl, take a sip. First, we're gonna taste for structure. So these are called structure, the sugar, acid, tannin, alcohol, body, mousse. To me, this is more important than the actually talking about the actual flavor characteristics. This tells you a lot about the wine. Tells you a lot about where it comes from, how it was farmed, how it was made, a lot of different things. So yeah, let's go through it from the top. So sweetness, give it a swirl, move it around. I say this, but like Listerine the shit out of your mouth with the wine, coat every inch of your mouth, move it all around. coated, just so you can really get a feel for it. But the first, we're going to talk about the sugar. All right. Okay, first of all, this one is just fucking delicious. Oh, it's so good. All right, this wine is dry. 95%+ of wines made in the world are dry. So when in doubt, you're gonna go with dry. You may think that this wine is not dry because there's so much fruit here. I get a lot of fruit, but abundance of fruit flavors and aromas does not necessarily mean presence of sugar in the wine. So dry means lack of sugar, sweet means presence of sugar. It's not exact science, unfortunately. It really bothers me too. But a lot of this is a perception too. So dry is kind of like, so we measure sugar in wine by grams per liter. So dry is like 0 to maybe 10 grams per liter. Off dry is 11 to like, I don't know, 18, 17. Medium dry gets up to like 25, 30. Medium sweet gets into like 35, 40. Anything beyond like 45, 40 is really sweet territory. But luscious, by the way, we're talking about all the wines that have ever been made in the world of wine. So luscious, we're talking about like dessert wines that gets up to like 350 grams per liter of a sugar level. So it ranges quite a bit, but very, very, very small percentage of wines make it past dry. Majority of wines you're ever going to come across are dry wines. There's that. Acidity. So take a sip, move it around, see where you feel acid. I usually feel mine in the back of my jaw. Most people I know do. Some people feel it in their sinus. Some people feel it like right underneath their nose. Some people feel it between their eyebrows. So you have to figure out where your acid sensor is, and then calibrate it. So move it around and figure out what it is, and see what the acid is. All right. Just to help you calibrate your senses, I'm going to call this medium. That's about how much it's pulling. It's not super high, but it's just there. Medium. Tannin. So tannin is a polyphenolic compound found in the skins, the seeds, and the stems of the grapes. A lot of red wines are meant to be aged for a long time that will have a lot of tannin. If you ever oversteep green tea, or if you ever like suck down green tea, like tea bag afterwards, you will know what tannin feels like. It has this kind of drying sensation in your mouth. It can get astringent, but it is in some wines, it is not only desirable, it's actually required because it's meant to be aged for a while. Tannin is antioxidant, so it helps protect the wine from oxygen exposure or being oxidizing, getting oxidized, which helps with the aging of the wine. So move the wine around, see if you feel any friction, kind of drying sensation in your mouth. There's ever so little bit here. I mean, with a lot of rosés, you're not gonna, especially with the direct press, because it's basically, it doesn't spend much time on the, doesn't spend any time on the skin. It's just a press that way. But depending on how hard you press the skins, some of that tannin may leak out into the wine. But with a direct press, you're usually never going to find very high level of tannin. But I do feel a little bit of it here. So I'm going to call this low, if I'm even going to call it that. But there's a little bit of tannin here. There's a little bit of like friction that I feel on my gum, in the front. So yeah, I'm going to call this low tannin. But with a lot of rosé, direct press rosé particularly, you're rarely ever going to talk about tannin. Alcohol, getting the practice of guessing the alcohol percentage on the wine. Just feel for the warmth in the back of your throat. Yeah, and just to help you calibrate sensitive, I haven't looked at it yet. I'm gonna say this is probably like what, 12%, probably even lower. Petnats usually never get that high in alcohol, but it doesn't taste very hot to me, hot meaning a lot of alcohol left in the wine. I'm gonna call this like 12, 11 and a half. Yeah, 11 and a half. So medium is like, I don't know, 12 to 13 and a half. Medium plus is 13 and a half to 14 and a half. High is 15 and above. Medium minus is like 10 and a half to 11 and a half. Low is below 10%. So we're in the kind of a high, we're kind of in the medium minus, high of medium minus, low of medium. As the wine warms up, the alcohol usually tends to make itself more present or feel more present. But as of right now, I'm going to call this medium minus because it's 11.5%. And it feels that way. It feels correct. It feels accurate. Body. So this is where I'm going to split the room, whether you are on team milk or not, you be the judge. But I use the milk analogy to give the body. So imagine if you're switching like skim milk all around your mouth, or like 2% milk or whole milk. And don't even worry about the flavor. Just worry about just imagine that you're trying to feel for the weight, the viscosity of that liquid moving around your mouth. So skim milk would be light, 2% would be medium, full would be whole milk. So move this wine around and try to take a guess what percentage of milk this would be. It's got like a little more weight than I thought. Still not very full. I'm talking about probably like higher in the medium minus, lower in the medium. So if you call it medium minus to medium, you're fully in the kind of right range. This is definitely not a full wine. You're rarely gonna get full wine with a direct press rosé unless you're using some really robust varieties. But even then, so medium minus to medium, this is exactly where it is. Mousse. This is kind of to me, out of all of this, is the most tricky one out of kind of really talk about or to really accurately describe. So delicate is when the bubbles are like super fine, like pinpoint needles. It's usually the wines that have gone through traditional method, have spent a lot of time under pressure. So all the CO2 is really dissolved into the wine. It takes a long time for the wine to go flat, has really high pressure inside the bottle. So things like champagne, Cremant, Cava, those things. The bubbles tend to be just really small. So that's really like delicate. Creamy is when it's gone through like a tank method, like a Prosecco is made, where it hasn't spent as much time. So the bottle pressure is a little bit lower. So the bubbles really just kind of foam up and it creams up and it kind of fills the mouth. That's kind of what we're talking about. And then aggressive is, I mean, we're talking about like Andre, like soda aggressive. Some of these wines can be, I mean, if you even want to call it that, call Andre wine, technically, I guess it is still wine because it's a grape product. It's fermented grape juice, but they essentially pump CO2 into that wine, like a soda gun in a bar. And those bubbles are like super aggressive, like drinking a soda, can of soda. So it can be that. With pet nats, so this is another one. This is another one to kind of really show in the grid, in a conventional world. It's really trying to tell you whether it was made in a champagne traditional method or what's made in a kind of a Charmat method. That's, by the way, in general. There are Proseccos that are made with a higher pressure, where the bubbles are much more delicate, or also cavas and young cavas and young champagnes where they haven't spent much time, and then the bubbles feel a lot more like a Charmat method. So there are outliers out there, but in general, really, this is what we're trying to signal to each other when we say, oh, these are really delicate bubbles, meaning this traditional method spent a long time in the bottle. Creamy, meaning it was a Charmat method, really fresh. Aggressive, meaning, just not quite right. But with the pet nats, first of all, the pressure is never that high. Just because it's just the last bit of fermentation that's kind of finishes out in the bottle. So it's never going to be as big, as pressurized or as bubbly as even the Charmat or the traditional method. This wine will go flat quite fast. So honestly, even if you drank probably even half of this wine and capped this and came back tomorrow, it would be way less. It would be quite flat, honestly. I would expect it to be. Unlike champagne or other things where it stayed kind of carbonated for a longer time. But with this thing, I would say, I'm gonna call this creamy. This wine just kind of bubbles up and kind of fills your mouth. I wouldn't call this bubbles really aggressive. You're rarely gonna come across a petillant that's aggressive. It's just not pressurized enough for it to be aggressive. So yeah, I'm gonna call this creamy. Flavor intensity. How easily can you identify all the flavors? This actually feels a lot more intense on the palate than it does on the nose. On the nose, we call it medium, right? But on the palate, I see a lot more. Medium, higher end of medium, lower end of medium plus. Being generous, let's call it medium plus. But yeah, I get a lot more assertive flavors. And there you go. So this is where you kind of confirm all the things that you smelled on the nose and then see if there's any additional things that you get or some things you smell on the nose where you do not get. And to me, on the nose, I call, maybe there's some blossom, maybe honeysuckle, some of that. I really don't get much of it. To me, it's this. It's citrus and it's red fruit. This kind of lemon, there's kind of this like a lemony, citrusy lemon skin with just like a spritz of a grapefruit zest kind of a thing is what I get here. But lemon is really even more pronounced on the palate than it is on the nose. And, hence the name. This, it's just basically saying it's a play on lemonade. So yeah, I get quite a bit of lemon. That kind of peach ring thing I still do get, but really, I mean, we're talking about here. This is it. Red currant, cranberry. I get strawberry. I didn't get much strawberry in the nose, but I get a ton of strawberry here on the palate. Red cherry. But yeah, we're talking about just red fruit, red fruit, red fruit. No black fruit for me. Really fresh, really ripe. No herbaceous tone, no green tones here. No herbal, maybe touch of that lavender that I got on the nose. But really, we're talking about just the fruit, the citrus and the red fruit. No spices, not really minerality here, for me at least. And then this is something that I get actually. There's a little bit of that, this autolytic. It's not kind of brioche, but it's like the way, if you guys are familiar with the muscadet from Loire Valley, they put it on lees. There's a lot of like a lees aging on that wine, and you get a little bit of this kind of cheese rind in some wine. In some wines, you even get a little bit like a beery, kind of like a grain beery kind of a thing. Like I taste a little bit of beer on this wine. I think it just may be because it's undisgorged and it's been kind of sitting on the lees and getting some of the lees, but there's just touch of that kind of like a beer, leesy, yeasty kind of a thing on the palate. I mean, it's ever so slight. It's not like, it's not really interfering with other things. I just detect it. It's still full of just really fresh fruit, ton of that strawberry, like ton of strawberry that coming through. But I do get just a touch of that kind of like just a beer vibes on this thing. No tertiary, no other secondary. We're really talking about fresh primary citrus red fruit with that touch of that beer is what I get. Finish is take a sip and then sit with it, see how long the flavors stick around. Yeah, I get a little bit of that lavender. It's like a strawberry lavender, like shandy. All right, I'll call this about like medium, maybe a little bit longer than medium plus maybe, meaning, but no, I'm gonna call this medium. It's not like super long, but it's not short. It's about medium. All right, conclusion. This is where you put it all together and call it quality level. So quality level is a function of four things: balance, concentration, complexity, and length. The finish length. Balance. Is this wine balanced? Meaning, is there anything in here that's preventing you from experiencing other things? I don't think so. I think everything is really well in balance. Everything's really harmonious. Everything tastes really good together. So I would say this one is really well balanced. Complexity. How many different things did you smell or did you taste? We talked about red fruit, right? Citrus. But that's, I mean, maybe a touch of lavender. But that's really it, right? Like we didn't really talk about a lot of other things. We talked about maybe flour, peach ring, maybe that sense of beer in there, but like there's really not much. To me, what's really predominantly what this wine is about is that red fruit and then the citrus fruit and maybe smidgen of other things. So we're talking about maybe medium, let's call that, like, you know, we have with a little bit of flour, citrus, ton of red fruit, maybe touch of that kind of beer, yeasty kind of a thing, the autolytic thing. So let's call that about medium. And then concentration, we call it medium on the nose, medium plus on the palate. So somewhere between medium palate plus, and then the length we call it medium. So when you look at all those things, it's balance, it's medium complex, it's medium to medium plus intense, it's medium length. So when you take average of those three things, it's about medium is where we end, maybe a little bit touch step outside of towards medium plus. So when that average is medium, you call it good. When there's medium, when that average medium plus, you call it very good. When that quality average comes up to pronounced, then it's outstanding. Medium minus acceptable. Low is poor. Faulty means there's something wrong with wine. So calling the average being medium, I'm going to call this good wine. Level of readiness for drinking, potential for aging. For the wine to age properly or successfully, you need two things. You need a structural component and you need a flavor component. And then each one of those things breaks down into two subcomponents. So let's talk about structure first. So structure, we're talking about tannin and or acid. We talked about low tannin. I mean, almost negligible amount of tannin, but there's a little bit. So very low amount of tannin. Acid, we call it medium on this thing. So really not that high acid. So right away, just structurally, this wine is just not really meant for aging for a long time. Structure, the acid and tannin provides kind of the backbone. So the wine just doesn't completely fall apart and kind of keeps it, you know, erect, straight. So there's that. And then the flavor portion is the intensity and the complexity. We call it about medium on the nose, medium to medium plus on the palate. And then complexity wise, not that much things going on, right? We call medium about in terms of complexity. So not a whole lot of intensity or the complexity either. So in general, I would say this is not the wine to really age. And pannats in general are not meant to be aged. It's just meant to be consumed young and fresh. It's meant to really enjoy the purity of the fruit. And that's exactly what this is. This is all about the purity of the old vine carrying on that we get. Even the wine production method earlier when we talked about direct press, right? The winemaker chose to discard all the stems and just use the berries. And I mean, obviously, I haven't confirmed this, not having talked to the winemaker directly, but what that tells me is that what she was trying to achieve with this wine is really all about the pure fruit quality of the wine. She didn't want anything else in there except for just the berries, barely pressed, just get enough to get the colors in there, and then simply fermented and bottled and out. That's exactly what this wine is. And not all wines are meant to be really complex, cerebral thinking wines. Some of them are just meant to be really just fucking delicious and easy to drink. And that's exactly what this wine is and exactly what this meant to be. So there you go. That's what we have here. Any questions about this wine? Anything I just want?
Hey there, Woong. I had a question.
Yeah.
So if I were to go to a store and try to, oh, sorry, try to get the same one. Can you hold them? Try and get like a similar wine. What is it that I'm asking for? Because I don't normally like rosé. Like sometimes when you just get like a regular flat rosé,
Mhm.
it gives me like this, like not metallic, but like a flat. I get this flat bite type of feeling. I don't
Okay.
know. It doesn't go as smooth as white, and then I don't get all the complexities that I like in red, so then I never pick rosé.
Yeah.
Rather have an orange wine or a white wine if I'm in the mood for like summer weather, why people usually go for a rosé. But this
Yeah.
one is awesome. So I just want to know, like, is it the region that I should be asking for, or is it like I want something that's got the sparkles in it? Like, what is making this like interesting?
I
Is
mean,
it,
to
I really don't
me,
know what I can't pinpoint. Am I loving many elements of the wine, or is
yeah,
it am I loving a particular thing? So then I can just, I might not find this one, but I can
yeah,
say, okay, I'm helping myself
yeah.
now down. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. What I'm guessing is you probably don't like Provençal style rosé, so you can say that to whoever you're talking to. Say, I don't really like Provence style rosé. Having said that, I really enjoy like the way I would describe this without telling them, where it comes from, what it was. It was basically that really fresh, youthful, fruit-driven peanut is basically what this is. If you want sparkling, if you don't want sparkling, that's also fine too. So
Wait, what
I
was the
just
word that
really
you used? A really fruit forward,
fresh, youthful.
no. Was there a word for the wine? You said Pinette wine?
Petnat, yeah, petillant naturel.
Oh,
Petnat is short for petillant naturel, which is just a French word for natural bubbles, natural petillants, natural sparkling, naturally sparkling.
oh,
Um,
okay.
so the wines that are made in this style, where you start fermenting the wine, and before all the sugar gets eaten up by yeast, they bottle it and then let it finish fermenting inside, so all the CO2 gets melted into the wine, which is exactly how this wine is made. These are called petillant natural. These are petnats.
Oh, wait, so it's like it bottles before it ferments fully.
Fully ferments, exactly. When there's still sugar left in the wine that's
Okay,
still
okay,
fermenting right now, they bottle it and then they let it
okay.
finish fermenting inside this bottle. And
Right.
oftentimes they'll
Okay.
disgorge it, meaning they'll pop the top open, they'll turn it upside down, so all the leaves collect on the top. They'll pop it open, disgorge it, so the leaves get shot out. But in this case, they didn't do that. They just kept all the leaves and everything in there. So.
Okay, got it.
So if you like this style, then Pennat is a really good thing to go. So ask for really just fresh, young, fresh Pennat. All Pennats are pretty much young and fresh, but say like really fruit driven, fruit forward, young, fresh Pennat. Loire in France makes a lot of these kind of wines. Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah, as an example, but yeah, Languedoc also makes quite a bit of it. So yeah,
If you
there's a
don't
lot.
mind, could you spell that in the chat, Pennet?
Yeah.
Whatever that. Okay, thanks.
So, you said you didn't get much cheese, but I gotta say, when I first opened at least my bottle,
Yeah.
if you took a chunk of like nice ripe Tallegio and just smeared strawberry all over it, like that's what strawberry and Tallegio, like
Yeah.
ripe fermented cheese, and it has
Oh,
blown off
interesting.
quite a bit, in an
Yeah.
hour or so since it's been opened. But man, it was like right at the point where it was kind of gross, but
Yeah.
like right to the edge, but not quite there. And I thought that made it super interesting because you get that like really fresh, fruity strawberry, but it
Yeah.
has this funk to it that I thought was really cool.
Yeah. To me, it wasn't I mean, cheese rind. Yeah, I totally get that. When I first opened, it was like, to me, like beer, cheese rind, that thing going on for sure. There's that savory kind of a thing, which is cool. Yeah, and I totally agree with you. Somehow it's blowing up, which is weird to me, because to me, that is a sign of just having been on the lees, included in there. I don't know why it's blowing well, but yeah, you're right. Like I get less of it. Like I get so much more just strawberry on this thing than I do of the savory edge. So, but yeah, it didn't strike me as like the actual cheese itself, like the cheese rind, like that part. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. Totally see that.
It totally did for me. But like I said, that was in the first 10 minutes or so, and it has
Yeah.
toned down some. Yeah.
Yeah. This wine is so good. It's also goes down dangerously easy. Like it's so easy to drink. Did everybody like this one? Did anybody not like this one, by the way?
It's not my favorite that we've had, but
Okay.
I enjoy it.
What don't you like about it, Jen?
I don't know. Maybe it's just my bottle being shipped across the states, but I definitely get strawberry and like raspberry and the red fruit and lemon. But to me, like it feels like I'm drinking like champagne. Like I get a ton of the bread dough and brioche, which like you said, we shouldn't really be getting that. But it did blow off quite a bit. So I'm actually enjoying it a little bit more. But yeah, when I first tried it, I was like, whoa, what is this?
Yeah, there's definitely quite a bit of that doughy, yeasty kind of thing on here. A lot more than I expected, honestly.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. I've also had this wine. I may be mistaken. I may be mistaken with another wine, but I'm pretty sure in the past vintages they were disgorged. So that probably adds to having a lot more cheese rind, that beer kind of thing that everybody's talking about. And I wonder why that decision was made. Or I may be wrong. I may be mistaking it. Maybe this was always undisgorged. I'll find out. But yeah. Any other questions? Or did anybody else not like this one? Did anybody make watermelon gazpacho with this by any chance? Or just watermelon? I want to say if there's a pairing worked with watermelon. Okay.
I wanted to, but I didn't.
What'd you say?
I wanted to, but I didn't have any watermelon.
Okay. All good. All right. Let's play this game. How much do you think this is on a retail shelf? How much would you be happy paying for a retail shelf? I love that, Dave. You're like, this is a borderline gross cheesy, but you're like, I'll pay $30 for this.
Yeah, because it's that funk. It makes it so interesting.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't go over the edge. It goes right to the line, but not over the line.
Yeah, I will say I can't stop drinking it.
Yes. I had this like super chilled last Sunday, and I had like a little bit of a taco grilling session in the back, and it was so good. It's like the perfect thing on a hot day. All right. 1830, 828, 1822, 2020. Also, welcome back, Catherine Gaines. We've missed you. 2632. The bottle is so fancy, upcharge. I don't know. It's in a fucking Grolsch, type bottle. But this wine, by the way, petillant are usually, sparkling in general is usually not super cheap. But this right here on the retail shelf would go for $27. So you guys are all kind of in that ballpark, except for Shannon and Catherine. But yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah, and reusable bottle, exactly.
That's
I think we'll make
surprising because it's not a sparkling from a region anyone would think of as a sparkling region.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of these petillants being made there by these like young natural winemakers that move there. But you're right. Like in general, that's not really like a sparkling wine place. Like nobody thinks of Languedoc Roussillon as a sparkling wine place.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. But yeah. Good wine. I like it.
Yeah. I mean, it's delicious. It's just like, you know, these are the kind of wines I really like, where it's like so easy to drink. It's just like, it's just really delicious to the body, but there's enough there that like kind of keeps you coming back and like thinking about it, like retasting it, like, oh, what is that? Like, what's happening there? Like, would it be cheese or that savory note or something else? Like, I just really like wines like that these days. So yeah.
I missed, I think you said, obviously, if we like capsules, the bubbles, like the effervescence is gonna go away, but would it be good tomorrow if just with this cap? Like,
I don't know.
I don't know if I can do the whole thing.
Now with that kind of attitude, you can, Kelly.
Ooh.
Kelly, go wake up Mike. Give him some.
He's right here. We're detoxing from our vacation, so
Don't detox. Tell him he has to drink some.
that's Nils. That's Nils
Hey,
telling
Nils.
you to drink some.
Yeah, it's
There you go.
yeah.
Drink up, Mike.
Oh,
Detox
yeah, there.
tomorrow.
He
Detox
helped.
tomorrow.
He helped. Look at that.
It's so good. I should not be drinking all of it, but I think I'm gonna.
Where's Kunal?
He's drinking it with me, but I think I'm out drinking him today, which is unusual. And also I'm still breastfeeding, so and I drank earlier today. I don't know if we moved into after hours or not, but I went to go the World Cup for cricket is happening in North America for the first time ever. So we went to go watch India.
random.
Ireland. Yeah, I'll post it on Instagram soon, but India, Ireland were playing today. And I think they were like, let's go with 20,000 people at the stadium today. And there were like 20 Irish fans and like basically 20,000 Indian people. It was insane. It was insane. And the Ireland was so bad that like we were rooting for Ireland to make more runs so that the game would go longer.
Wait, so you were there in person?
Yeah, today I made Sham miss school, and me, Kunal, and Sham and my aunt and uncle went to that India Ireland game, and it was really
in Connecticut. Where? Wait, sorry, I missed where
it was in Long Island.
Mhm.
It was in Long Island. Yeah.
Oh,
so
is this the cricket?
the Cricket World
tournament?
Cup that's happening in North America. The finals are going to be played in the like West Indies, Barbados, or whatever. But like some of these other games are happening in New York.
Okay.
So for example, India Pakistan is playing on Sunday, and like we didn't get tickets because like at minimum they're like $800 a ticket.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, like one of Kunal's cousins going for like $1,300 a ticket. It was insane. We're
That's
just
like Taylor Swift tickets.
Yeah, we were just gonna watch it at home. But India, Ireland was also not that cheap. Like we spent like $200-300 for a ticket. So you buy 3 of them, like we spent like $1,000.
In
And-
North America, where nobody knows cricket.
It's because all the Indian people that live in North America, they'll never get to see these players. Like it's really hard. It's hard to find get these players. Just like even seeing them was like exciting. Like if a player came close to you, the crowd was going crazy because how else would you see them? And so everybody was just paying, but that's what I was like, oh, like we went to India, Ireland, and there were like 20 Irish fans and like 20,000 Indian fans. It was insane.
Yeah, makes sense.
It was embarrassing. Like we found like, I mean, there were no Irish people there. None.
That's amazing. I like that though. That's like I don't know, it's almost like a national identity, you know?
I mean, it was cool. It was it was fun. And they played like really good music and they had all these great food trucks there. And, you know, obviously the level of cricket playing is so good. Like these fastballs, like when these people are whatever pitching, whatever the word is. Oh, bowling, that's what it's called. When they're bowling that ball, it's so fast. Like it's insane. Like I you see it on TV, but when you see it live,
Yeah.
like no normal human being would ever want to stand in front of that ball because like if accidentally it hit you, you die.
I feel like
So-
all I know
Yeah.
about cricket is from Bluey.
Um, I've become experts on Bluey. That I spent the week in Minnesota and then
Oh, yeah.
earlier in San Francisco.
Didn't we have like a pre-conversation where you like didn't know what Bluey was, or was that?
Yeah, I didn't know what Bluey was until like 3 weeks ago. Yeah, but now I've seen so many of them, so many.
They're so good.
Yeah.
I somehow
Um,
managed with my first two kids to never watch Bluey, but maybe I will with this little guy.
Nils, you've never watched Bluey?
My kids never got into it.
My kids didn't get into it until like a year ago, and Catherine was like a little old at that point, but it's still like so good.
It's
The only
pretty
thing you can
it's
watch
pretty
is it.
well made.
Yeah. Like
Okay.
it's good for parents, adults. Like it's
Oh, okay, maybe my kids will watch it like with this little guy. Like
they'll watch it for Jay, and then they'll secretly like really love it and be like, Jay, don't you want to watch Bluey? 'Cause
yeah,
it's so good.
maybe that'll happen. Like babysitting. Oh yeah, let's watch Bluey. Let's watch Bluey, so they don't have to watch some other crap.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Cocomelon or some dumb shit like that. No, you want to watch Bluey.
We're in his house.
Um,
Oh, yeah.
changing the subject real quick.
You're
Catherine,
Mhm.
tell us all about your travel.
Can I see
You've been
it?
traveling for a while.
Yes, I have been all over. I've been a bit of a nomad. I've been in 6 different countries in Africa over the past two months.
Damn, where'd you all go?
Well, I was actually it was longer than that when I was in South Africa to start. I was in Joburg for a while, and then I was in Egypt, in Cairo. I was in Nairobi, in Kenya, Lagos, Nigeria, Dakar, Senegal, and then Kigali, Rwanda.
Damn.
Yeah, it's been a lot. It's been a lot. It's incredible experience. But
Was it for work or for fun?
no, very much for work. Yeah, very much for work. But yeah, experience of a lifetime. But it's been a lot. I just got home late yesterday, and I'm still confused as to where I am, but yes, it was a really incredible adventure.
Are you jet lagged?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wow. What was there a favorite country or place you went to?
I mean, Rwanda is really incredible. Kigali is pretty great. I loved Dakar. Senegal, I speak a little French, so that was good. And Dakar, the way they dress up there, I mean, it's a majority Muslim country, so there's sort of a conservative dress, but like the only way I can describe it is like a cross between Bridgerton and Wakanda. It is
Oh,
off the charts gorgeous. Yeah, it's insane.
Cool.
Yeah. And
Where
it's
is this that they dress like that?
in Dakar, Senegal,
Oh, nice. Okay, good to know.
just stunning. Yeah. No, it's incredible.
yeah, I am fascinated and obsessed with that area, Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire, that like whole West Africa. Like that's where I really want to go.
Yes.
Yeah.
I loved Lagos too in Nigeria. I was there, one of my colleagues. She's essentially like a socialite basically in Lagos, in addition to being like our country head there. But so I mean, it's just an incredible place with so many incredible people, and the food's great. Oh my God, the food is so good. But yeah, no, all of that's great. I would love to go to Ghana. I didn't make it to Ghana. And that would be next on my list. Also Cote d'Ivoire, Abidjan. I almost made it to Abidjan, but didn't. But really, really incredible. Yeah.
Was it did you spend about equal amount of time in each place, or was it kind of depending on your work assignment?
Yeah, it was depending on where I was. So yeah, it was. I mean, I was most places. I was there at least 5 or 6 days. Kigali, I was there like 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
Dakar about 10 days or so, maybe 2 weeks. I can't remember. But yeah, because we had our season also for the league. We have a basketball league down there, the BAL. So that was part of the travel, because that we do essentially 4 different conferences. So that was in South Africa, in Pretoria, and then it was in Cairo, and then Dakar, and then the playoffs and finals were in Kigali. So
Okay.
so yeah, there was some structure. So yeah, it was good.
Are you happy to be back, or?
I am. I definitely am. I started to feel like I was never going to leave, that I was just going to keep adding African countries to visit. But no, definitely happy to be home. This last one was about just under 2 months that I was away straight. And then I'd been home for like 10 days before that. And then before that, I was gone for like a month and a half in Joburg. So yeah, I can't remember normal life, because even when I've been home, I've been working Africa hours. So it just feels like the last 6 months have been a blur. But yeah, really, really good opportunity. Incredible people. Just my colleagues over there are really amazing. So yeah, it was good. Missed Wine Club.
Well, welcome back. What will be all right if you're not going back there for work, if you're going back there for pleasure, and you could only go back to one of those places, where would you go back? What was the first place you go back to?
Oh, wow. I think it's Dakar for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's Dakar.
Yeah. Did you ever watch what is that? High on Hog? Is that what it's called? It's on Netflix. It's a food docuseries about African American diaspora, or slavery essentially, and their lasting legacy on American food cuisine, American
Oh,
cuisine
that sounds
essentially.
incredible. No, I don't think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean it's based on a book. The book is incredible. Then they made a docuseries on Netflix called High on the Hog. It talks a lot about Senegal, a lot of first West African slaves that arrived in South Carolina and the south of US, or from Senegal. They're Senegalese, and for example, like the word gumbo. Like gumbo is basically okra. That's what they call okra in Senegal. And they have a very similar dish where they thicken it with okra, but here in the States, because of French influence, they use roux instead of okra. But essentially, that dish was first given by the Senegalese diaspora that came in first. So like there's all this connection that's between Senegal and basically the very first cuisine of the slaves that came to the States, and then like how it crosses and how much influence that has had on the current food that we eat now. It's fascinating. It's awesome.
Yeah, no, totally. I had a similar dish, but I had it in Nigeria, and the consistency was a little rough for me. I really thought I was gonna enjoy it, and I struggled. But yes, in Senegal and Dakar, I did go to Gorée Island, which is like the door of no return, which is like the island that so much of the slave trade went through, and they were pulling people from all of the nearby countries, and that was the spot where they brought them before they shipped off to places. But yeah, so really, yes, incredible history and absurd absurd implications from there. But yeah, no, really, really fascinating. I tried to do at least, I was ridiculously busy with work, but I tried to do at least one kind of important historic touristy thing in each location.
Cool. Cool. Well, sounds like it was a stressful, hectic 2.5 months, but also incredible
That's it.
and eye-opening. So glad it was
Yes.
good.
Yes to all.
Yeah. Well, welcome back. Now you get to have some delicious weird wines this month. And hang
Thank
out.
you. Yes. The only thing I'll miss is all of the easy availability of South African wines, because that you get so much all over the continent. It's like you just
Yeah.
yes, please. South African, yes, that one, please. I tried
Is that
I tried some Egyptian wine,
yeah?
which it turned out was South African grapes. So it was a little bit of a cop out. We kind of got sold on that, but it was not amazing. But otherwise, yes, a lot of South African wine was consumed for sure.
Interesting. I mean, it makes sense, but especially in West Africa, I thought there's gonna be a lot more French wines than South African
Yeah,
wines.
I thought so too. There was some. I mean, it depended on kind of the restaurants that I went to, but it was definitely a lot of South African wine.
Ah,
Yeah,
I think probably like
for
price and import
yeah,
availability.
I think with the free trade, they have a free trade agreement with like a lot of different countries within Africa. So I'm assuming that was part of it, but I don't know. I need you to study up and explain that to me, Un. But yeah.
Well,
I
there's a challenge Untitled Africa box, like not South Africa,
Love it.
Yeah.
like what else?
I don't even know who would import that, but yeah, all right.
Yeah,
Challenge
and
accepted.
it wouldn't be easy. Anything importing and transportation in and around Africa is hard.
Yeah. Was the wine, were the wines cheap? Was it expensive or?
No, pretty cheap. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, and I think you've been to South Africa, but like so cheap in South Africa.
Yeah.
For their own wine. I mean, everything's really cheap in South Africa right now, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was pretty cheap. It was, but a lot of things felt cheaper. Certainly, the dollars.
Sure,
It's
sure,
definitely
sure.
advantageous. Yeah.
Well, you've hit up all the places that I'm dying to go to, so I'm jealous.
Definitely go. Make it a priority. Get there. It's hard to get around between countries. It's a lot of times easier to leave the continent and go to Europe or parts of Asia to connect.
What?
I know it's the infrastructure, the flying in Africa is a mess. It's terrible. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. And sadly, a lot of it, like if you think about the colonizing countries, they oftentimes have better flight routes to go back into Europe to whatever the colonizing country was, and then go to, another country.
Yeah.
But
Fascinating.
yeah,
Interesting. Okay.
they definitely have some work to do there. But yeah.
Um, I'm going to Africa for the very first time this October. Going to Morocco.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
But I don't know if I mean, yes, technically yes, but I don't know if North Africa really counts as Africa. But
Well, it's complicated because even when I actually that almost made it there, and then we decided to push our trip. So I will be going there later in the summer probably. But while in Egypt, I had a lot of business meetings, and I'm going to say in each one, our sort of local person had to remind the person from Cairo that we were meeting with, when they didn't describe themselves as African, they would be like, you're African too. So they very much
yeah.
try and distance themselves, and they think of themselves as more in the Middle East, and they very much focus their business on sort of competition with Saudi Arabia
Sure.
and all of that. So yeah, it's I think it's similar in Morocco too.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Well, cool. What's do people have any good travel plans coming up for the summer? You guys are going anywhere? Well, Kelly, you guys are going to Croatia, aren't you?
We just got back.
Oh, you just got back. You were there. Okay.
Yeah, we
How was
did.
it?
We went to Lady PP.
Yeah,
Was one of your recommendations.
yeah, yeah,
And we went to the wine bar that Heidi recommended.
yeah.
And
Did you see the statue in front of the Lady Pee?
we did. Yes,
Okay,
because
of
we were
course.
waiting outside because you had
Uh-huh.
to wait in line.
Yeah.
But the wine bar, they were so excited that Heidi, like, they were like, oh my God, like her Instagram is like wines of the times.
Yeah.
And they were like, wines of the times? Oh my God, she's the best. Like they were just really, really, really excited.
Amazing.
To
Amazing.
have that connection. So that was great.
Cool, cool.
Drank such good wine.
Yeah, really good wines there.
Really good, cheap. I was like really scared that it was gonna be hit or miss. Like I just didn't know when you go to a place and it's like you don't know the names of the grapes and you don't know anything
Right.
about it, and the wines are only on that island. And I was like, what are we gonna be getting? But everything was amazing. It was
Yeah.
almost all very good, like amazing, and sometimes very cheap.
Yeah.
We were at this vineyard for dinner and tasted, they only had their wines, and we were like, these are really good, we should go get some. And they're like, oh, it's like $12 a bottle. We're like, well, we'll take a case of this.
Yeah.
Bring it on our boat with us and drink it all week. It was great.
Nice. Did you guys go to VAR?
We did.
Okay.
We went, we took a boat we went to Dubrovnik, and then we took a boat from Split. And so every night we stayed at a different marina.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we spent 2 nights on VAR, but different places. Like every night was something different. And
You didn't go to the Zlatan Otok, the
no.
winery on the bar? Yeah.
No. We went to the winery on Vis,
Okay.
which was amazing. And
Yeah.
then we went to a tasting room that was like it was in Ball. What island is that? I don't. But we didn't make it up into like the only place where we like got on bikes and really went all over the place was Vis. And
Okay.
anyway, it was a group of 8 people, so I could only get so much wine tourism into the agenda with
Yeah.
competing interests. But everybody enjoyed drinking the wine every night, and yeah, it was great. Great.
All
Thank
right.
you for
Who
it
was
was
the
like,
crew, Kelly?
what's that?
Who were these people?
Friends that from our daycare.
Oh, okay, perfect. No, I was
Like,
just I
yeah.
didn't totally recognize what was happening, and then it didn't even seem like they were Mike's friends, like from previous. I was just I couldn't put my finger on it.
I don't know if you met them, but
I think I might have like gotten your roof once.
you at my birthday. You definitely met them at my birthday.
Oh, okay, cool.
You don't remember them, but we've been traveling with them. It's like during COVID, we started doing like bubble travel.
The daycare trip without the kids. Interesting.
Yeah, then we didn't bring our kids. Yeah, it was so great. And then today, another friend, our friend Melissa, but this other friend like messaged me, and she was like, oh, we're going to Croatia in 2025. We have to get all your tips. Like we're bringing our kids. And I was like, I don't have any tips for you. Like nothing I did. But you'll have your own separate journey, and it'll be amazing, and it'll be great, and you'll have a great time. But just I wouldn't recommend things.
I think Croatia, whatever you did was perfect. Like I think it's a good friend group, and it would be a good trip to leave your kids behind. And I think one person could. Croatia's fun enough to go again as a family, and then bring your kids and like do it in a totally different way. I wouldn't mind going back to Croatia with a family, but I also would like to have like friend fun.
I think my biggest lesson learned from this trip was I would like to do more vacations on a boat. And not like a cruise ship, but like we were on a catamaran. And
I'm surprised you said that because like you know how people get like sick and then you're like bored of it and like can you do this every day and then you're like sunburnt and like it's the same shit every single day. But I guess that's not the experience you had. Or maybe you have an interesting perspective on that because you did something similar, right?
Me?
Yeah, didn't you go to Croatia and also be in a
I went
boat?
to Croatia, but I wasn't on a boat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I took a boat to go to Hvar, but took a couple ferries, but I wasn't like on a chartered boat that takes you from wherever you want to go on a catamaran boat.
I mean, it sounds very fancy, but let me tell you, it was like it was a good amount of space, but it was very small. Like the cabins were super small, and then the bathrooms were like we actually had like a problem on our boat, and it didn't smell great. There was like some sewage issue back up, and in there, whenever we're on the marina, you should go to the marina bathroom. So it was not like a glamorous super yacht type vacation, but you know, you just go up on the deck and it just feels like it was just so great because you were like, we're in a town and we're biking all around and going to a vineyard and whatever, and then we come back to the boat and have lunch, and then it goes somewhere else and we all take a nap.
Yeah.
And then you wake up and they're like, well, I have an Aperol spritz, and you're like sitting on the front of the boat as it like pulls up into the next marina. And even if it's like not a very, I mean, so everyone said it's super, super crowded. Like we were like the second week of the season, and they're like, if you come in like 3 weeks later, it'll be packed. And like in June, like July, August, it's like you can't even walk down the street. So it was like there weren't a ton of people. We felt very like almost sometimes like not the only people there, but very few people there. We didn't.
That's great though. That's good.
It was great.
So was there like a set itinerary, or did you get to decide where you want to go? You're like, let's go here, let's go there.
So we didn't necessarily have like we had some preferences, but it like the first day, like we got on the boat, we were supposed to leave, and they're like, it's really windy right now, we can't actually leave, we're gonna stay here tonight. So that was a little disappointing, like the first night, and they were like, we're gonna stay at this like big marina and Split. And then the first morning it like rained, and there were a couple of times where they were like, we can't do this because of the weather or because of the wind or because of whatever. So it was very flexible, but you know, we were like, here's a few things we'd like to see. And then they just plotted I think if you went in with very specific ideas, or if a bigger boat, maybe, you know, like our boat it doesn't go that fast. They told us how many knots, I don't remember. But they were like, you really can't go to what's the other really big island that I know Heidi had recommended some wineries on this other island, but they were like, we really can't go there because the boat doesn't go fast enough in the time that you have it to get all the way there and come all the way back. So, but we didn't know anything, so we were just like, whatever you recommend.
Did they feed you guys on the boat too, or?
So it was optional to have. So you have to have like the skipper, like the person who drives the boat, because you don't know how to drive the boat. But then you can optionally get like the hostess, they call it. So we did opt for the hostess, and you basically put a deposit, and they like draw down on your deposit to buy groceries, and then she just like made food.
Was it good? No, I was asking, was it good? Were you like happy with it?
Yeah, I mean, what was really cool about it, which I realized at the end, was she she's Croatian, and so she was like a 25-year-old, like young girl, but just making like all traditional dishes.
Oh, yeah.
And at the end, I had bought this book that Heidi recommended. Like a few weeks back, Heidi and I had this late night session after everyone signed off, and she gave me all the deets, and I got this book, and then I was reading the beginning of the book, and it was like must try dishes of Croatia, and I went through and I was like, we've had all of these because this woman like made them for us on the boat, like for lunch every
That's
day.
awesome.
And she would like plate them beautifully, and she had this Instagram. She was like, take pictures of, set up this beautiful tablescape and then take all these pictures and put it on her Instagram. But it was like it was too much food. Like, I mean, she the first day put out this huge breakfast and then made us lunch, and we were all like, we can't actually eat lunch because you made us this huge breakfast and we like just finished it. So after that, she like scaled back a little bit.
When I saw some of the pictures, I was like, I definitely want to go on this trip. I wonder how many days I can actually manage it.
I
On the
mentioned
boat?
that I was juice cleansing since we got back because like we literally ate so much food. It was way too much. Like I mean, just
Nonsense.
never eat like that. She'd have like a 3-course lunch, and it was like you had to try. Oh, it's so good. It's too much.
But I mean, I assume you ate a lot of the well, it's not Mediterranean, but what's the sea called, the ocean there?
Adriatic.
Adrian Sea? Adriatic, yeah. The Adriatic. So it was a lot of probably seafood and fish based, right?
So it was a lot of well, we had a challenge that a couple people didn't eat shellfish, but she still made for most of us. So it was like prawns, mussels, fish, the octopus, like the
Yeah.
beautiful baked. Like it was different than I expected. Because I remember being in Greece and having like grilled squid or grilled octopus, and here they like bake it in Croatia.
Yeah.
Which was also good, but just not what I had expected. And it's like beautiful. It's like the whole tentacles like displayed out.
Yeah.
We also had like chicken, and we did one day we were off biking around and saw this whole lamb being roasted on a spit, and a couple of the guys were like, oh my god, we need to eat that. So we got back to the boat, and they were like, Petra, we want to eat, we just saw this whole lamb and like we want to eat that. And she made a few calls and like reserved the whole lamb at the place that we had seen, literally like sent us back there for dinner that night. And the guy was like the local, I mean, it was a very super local place, and he was like so excited that we were there, and was like served us like the head of the lamb, and like Mike and I were the only ones that ate that part, but he was just thrilled. He like couldn't believe we were there and we were eating like lamb head with him, and
Well, yeah.
it was we ate a lot. Yeah.
Like lamb head, like literally, like
yeah, it was I have
Yeah.
pictures of it. It was the head, and we ate the brain and like the cheeks.
oh my god,
It's like don't eat the eyes, but some people like the eyes, but you don't have to eat them. We're like,
They do have really good lamb there. I
holy
remember.
cow! I can't believe you did that.
yeah, really? I've eaten weird shit
I didn't know.
in China. I've eaten weird shit.
Yeah, maybe I think that was like a long time ago,
Was
and I might have also blocked it out of my memory because I'm like, wait, what?
yeah. But the wine was just like fantastic, and
Yeah.
I got a couple bottles back in we couldn't bring suitcases. We had to use duffel bags because of the boat. Like the boat's so small, they don't let you bring real suitcases. So I was like really worried about putting bottles in a duffel bag and checking it, but I got a couple bottles back.
Well, you got to do what you got to do. That's great.
That
Um,
sounds incredible. Croatia is definitely next on my list, but I've been traveling so much, I think I have to pause
Yeah.
before I do that.
Yeah, that's fair for you.
yeah.
I spent a lot of time in Liberia, which I was not on your list of to go to countries in West
Did not
Africa.
make it. Yeah.
You don't need to go there, but
Okay, check. Done.
all the wine, wonderful wine and food you were mentioning, it's not there.
Okay.
Go to
Perfect.
Croatia.
Everything
I will
was
say
about
this,
Liberia.
though.
But that Michael Jackson song, Liberian Girl. I love that song.
What?
Yes.
I don't think I know this, but I will say this about Croatia. Well, about Montenegro actually. So if I were to go back to the Balkan, I think I'll go back to Montenegro. It's like everything that you can do in Croatia, but more rugged at third the price.
Wow.
Because nobody goes to Montenegro.
Well,
Nobody even knows where Montenegro is.
so when we went to Lady Pee
Uh-huh.
you have to wait in line because they don't take reservations. And they were like, only have shared table right now. We were like, that's fine. So they sat us with this Irish couple or this Irish mother and daughter. And they were like, oh, yesterday we went to Montenegro. And like Tulsa, and I was like, I would never have thought to go there. And they
Yeah.
did it. So they said
It's
it was
amazing.
awesome.
Yeah. It's just less developed than Croatia, but you still get that coastal beauty of Croatia that you would find. But it also goes up into the mountains and inland, so you get this like rugged, like rocky mountains inside as well. It's wild. It's amazing, and it's so much cheaper because nobody goes there. Like
Yeah.
nobody knows. Yeah, just flies under the radar. But
So many cool places in the world. You got to hit them before they get commercialized.
yeah, I mean, given there's no really truly wild places left on on Earth, but I feel like every place has been just have had a human touch on it at some point or another. But yeah, many places. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to make this. So my sister's going to Korea for a month next month, with the kids and brother-in-law. Like they're taking whole family. They got permission from their work to work from Korea, so they're gonna do a whole month. If things work out, they're gonna try to do it every year. So I'm gonna try to go. I don't know if I'm gonna go a full month, but I may. So do that. But then I come back in August. In September, middle of September, one of the women who's riding in the Morocco ride in October, she's gonna start riding from Porto down to Lisbon, then to Marrakesh. And she's like, if any one of you want to come, it's like you're welcome to. It's like, fuck, that sounds like an adventure of a lifetime. Like that sounds awesome.
Like you'd have to do a Portugal box that would match where you were at every
Exactly. You may get like a
That's
half Portugal box in September. Like second half of September will just be Portugal. But like what? Yeah, I'm hoping maybe I can like somehow figure it all out so I can like visit the producers that I'm featuring and actually like drink the wine with the producer and then like
Amazing.
do all of that. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. But yeah. So yeah. I'll have to think about it. But
Korea in July, Portugal in September, Morocco in October. Is that what you said?
yeah, that's kind of if I do everything that's on that's an option, that's what I would. Yes. But we'll see. Shall see. We
sounds
shall.
great.
Also, I just realized I've been recording this whole time. So sorry if any of you